There are times in Excel where data might be in one cell or column. However, there's several pieces of information in that cell, and you want to extract them out into their own individual columns or cells. The TextToColumns command enables us to analyze text in a cell and extract it across several different columns. In our example, we've imported a list of addresses from an external source. The problem is that all the data for each address was put together in one cell. We'd like to have the data available in separate columns, one for the street address, one for the city, one for state, and one for zip code. And for our first example, we're going to use data that comes in a fixed width or positional format. And that means that each field starts on a particular column and is separated by spaces that go to the next field. So let's go ahead and select the column of data that we want to convert with TextToColumns. And I'm going to click on A10. Now we could use our mouse to select this entire range of data. For this example, that's easy enough. But a better way to do this is to click on the first cell and hold Command, Shift, and the down arrow to select to the bottom of the range. Now another important tip, you need to make sure that there's no information to the right of what you're about to do TextToColumns on, because Excel will just overwrite that when it does this operation. Well, now we're going to go to our Data tab and we'll click on the TextToColumns button. And the first part of this wizard comes up and it says what type of file describes our data, delimited or fixed width. We'll get to delimited in a minute, but right now we're going to do fixed width. And then we'll click on Next. And now what you have is Excel has kind of analyzed our data, and as it does in many cases, it's taken a guess as to where we want to see those breaks. And so we'll go ahead and see how this works. In the beginning, on the very left, you see we have this little ruler across the top. And then we have samples of our data. And then you have lines, vertical lines in this grid area. That's where Excel is going to break out and make another column. So this first one right here, we've got 123 break space 1st Street. Well, that's actually all part of the address. So we don't want a break line between 123 and 1st Street. So to get rid of one of these lines, you can just get your mouse on it and double click it. Okay? And then we can use the scroll bar over here to scroll over just a little. The next piece of information is kind of some code. I'm not really sure what it is, but the break between the code and the city is kind of in a weird place. We want the break to be right up next to the city. So another way to manipulate these breaks is we can just go ahead and take the arrow and drag it, click and drag it over next to where we want to have a break. Now we don't need this code, but we'll see what we're going to do with that in just a minute. Now next, Excel made a pretty good guess here. It put lines around our state, directly to the left, directly to the right. That's correct. And now our zip code, it's all by itself, but we have a couple spaces before it starts and then one at the end. We want to actually put an extra line right there. So let's click right to the left of one of those zip codes. Oops, I missed. It's okay, I can just drag it to the left of that. And for the break at the end of the zip code, we'll just drag it over one. And then USA, we don't need a break. So now that we've basically got our separators in place, let's go ahead and click Next. And now what you've got is Excel has broken down our data into the fields it's going to import. And the first one is just general. Now here you can tell it if it's general data type, text, a date, or the other one, do not import. Let's go ahead now and let's look at that second column. That was the code we said we didn't need, the CD00. So let's just go ahead and say do not import. We're going to skip that column. Next we've got city, state, and then we have a column that's just spaces. Remember we put those two separators in so that we wouldn't have spaces. We don't want to import that one either. And the last one, USA, we don't need to import that. Now our destination is going to be A10. In general, it's good practice to just have your data be pasted right over where your data started. So we'll go ahead and leave that alone, and we'll just click Finish. And you see Excel went in there and parsed all of our data for us. We've got our address now in column A, our city in column B, our state in C, and our zip code in D. Now that we've seen how to do TextToColumns on fixed width data, let's see how to separate the data when the file's delimited. We'll scroll down a little bit and we have pretty much the same file in a delimited format. Now, delimited data is different in that the fields are separated by some character. Most of the time, it's a comma. Hence, the CSV format you hear about is also known as comma-separated values. Other popular delimiters are a tab, a tilde, or even a space. So we're going to go ahead and select our range that we want to separate. And then we're going to go to our data, TextToColumns command, but this time it's going to be delimited data. And we'll click Next. And here we can pick what delimiter we want. Is it going to be a tab, a semicolon, a comma, a space, or other? Now ours is a comma, but just for reference, if you had a tilde or something, you'd have to go in here and type the tilde in, or you could type in a pipe symbol, whatever the delimiter is that separates one field from another. We'll go ahead and stick to comma. Typically you want to put the text qualifier in as well, because what that does is if there's a comma within an address, they'll put quotes around it, and that quote will let Excel know to ignore everything between the quotes. We won't have that case here, but we'll go ahead now, and once we clicked on comma, Excel previews our data. It found all the commas and shows how we're going to separate these: street address, city, and state. Now, the state zip still has state, zip code, and country there. We'll worry about that in a second. We'll go ahead and click Next. And then we want to import all these, the same screen we saw in the fixed width. And go ahead and click Finish. Well, this is pretty good. It separated out street address and city, but now we've got state and zip and country all together. Well, here's what we can do. We can run another text to columns on this, and the delimiter here will be a space. So we'll click text to columns here. It's not fixed width, it's delimited. Click Next. But instead of a comma, it's going to actually be a space that separates those. Now Excel can see I'm going to separate out the state, the zip, and the country. Go ahead and click Next and Finish. Gave us an extra row that we can just delete. And there you have it. With two text to columns, we made our delimited data come all the way across in individual cells. So a major use of Excel is to gather data from other systems and use Excel's analytical and graphing capabilities to analyze data and build reports. TextToColumns provides us with an easy-to-use tool to help get data from other systems into Excel in a format that we can use.